Okay, this is my very first introductory video to my subscription website, and just wanted to give you a few things to think about as you get started here. I've been teaching for quite a while. I've taught hundreds, if not thousands, of students in one capacity or another, and I've learned quite a bit about how to get drum information across. And I like to think I'm a decent teacher. I've produced quite a few students that are doing quite well for themselves. And so I wanted to make my approach available online. And if you're watching this, you're probably just starting out, which is great. I'm glad that you're watching this video. When you play drums or percussion and you're learning how to play, it's going to be the most boring and the most difficult thing in the beginning when it comes to this instrument. But as you get better and as you learn what's going on, it'll become more fun and you'll really enjoy it. Just have to be patient with yourself. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed by all the other things that you see people are doing that you can't do yet. You'll get there. There are lots of different types of styles of drumming and percussion, and it's easy to get overwhelmed by the amount that's out there. And I remember when I was younger being overly stressed out about that fact, and I just sort of came to terms with it and decided that I just needed to focus on the things that I knew I was good at and the things that I loved. I know how to play pretty much everything on some level, but there are definitely things in the drum world that I'm more interested in than others, and things that I'm better at than other things, and I just tend to focus more of my time on those things. And that's okay. Wanted to touch base on practicing briefly here. People ask me all the time, how much should I be practicing? Well, obviously the more you practice, hypothetically, the better you're going to get. I used to give people kind of a time number, like 20 minutes a day, things like that, or an hour every other day, whatever it was. I don't believe in that anymore. Now, obviously, the more you practice, the potential for growth is greater, and hopefully you get more accomplished. But now my approach is more goal-oriented. When you sit down to practice, you want to have something in mind that you want to achieve. Let's say you're doing the first section in my drum set grid for beginners book. The first section is roughly 4 pages, I believe. So when I say goal-oriented, what you might want to do is say, okay, I'm going to sit down and practice, and my goal today is just to finish the first page. I feel like that's a little bit more motivating. It's not necessarily tied to time. And if you discover you get it done and you still want to practice, then start working on the next page. But if you're telling yourself, okay, I'm practice for 30 minutes, well, what if you practice for 30 minutes but you don't accomplish anything? Let's say you're working on the first section and in 30 minutes you don't finish the first page. That's not really a good stopping point. I don't feel like it's very motivating. So I think you should set yourselves goals. It doesn't have to even necessarily be an entire page. It could be 4 exercises. But every time you sit down, set yourself a goal and make your objective meeting that goal every time you practice. I'm also a big fan of practicing for short periods of time and more frequently. Your brain seems to get a little burned out after about 15-20 minutes, I see in a lot of people. So if you're going to sit down and have a marathon practice for an hour, after about 15-20 minutes, you actually might be mentally done. But everybody's different, so it may not be the case with you. But for some people it is. So when you practice for shorter periods of time. You know yourself better than anybody else does. Focus your time on practicing the hardest stuff when you're more mentally fresh. You'll get more done. But also think when you're done practicing the hard stuff or the things that you're working on, make a point to do things that are fun for you. Let's say you're practicing a really hard song and it's frustrating. When you're done doing that, go play something that's easy for you, something that you like to play. I think practicing should be fun. Music is supposed to be fun, so let's have fun with it. But when you're practicing and you're actually doing the work part of it, set yourself goals, have a strategy. Set yourself a goal each time you practice, and try to practice more often, more frequently, rather than long periods of time. Don't practice once a week for an hour. Practice maybe 5 to 10 times a week for 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever you feel like doing. For kids, this will be, a lesser thing. You don't want things to be too overwhelming. For adults, push yourself. And if you have any further questions about practicing and about getting started, I do have other videos that will address different topics, but feel free to contact me anytime. TobinWagstaff.com, Facebook.com/TobinWagstaffMusic. youtube.com/Tobin Wagstaff Music.